Okay, hey everybody, welcome to an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really cool review for you guys, which has been a long time coming from Shinola. Yes, Shinola, Detroit. Established in 2011, they are an American watch brand proudly founded in Detroit with the dream of bringing fine watchmaking back to the U.S. Having since grown into a full-on lifestyle brand featuring a wide array of diverse premium products. Now, in terms of the type of watch, though, I consider this an everyday watch. Some key characteristics and design language when you're looking for something that you can wear every day. Of course, you're going to want that versatile blend of both sporty and dressy attributes. This is the Mechanic 39 millimeter, and this line essentially is a hand-wound mechanical watch that honors the simple, tactile, analog experiences of life. The name is inspired by the rich history of sign painters in Detroit who call themselves mechanics in tribute to their precision skill in conveying information with clarity and style, not unlike a well-crafted wristwatch. This goes for $1,700 direct, and this unit was kindly provided by Shinola free of charge for review. They, of course, didn't have any editorial input on the video, nor did they receive any type of special pre-screening access. I have to say, again, I've been excited, and I reached out to them over the years many times, and I finally was able to get some traction, get connected to the right folks, and I was even able to, of course, get this unit. So I'm very excited. This is one that I've really, I mean, it actually originally came out on strap only, and that really caught my eye. It had a little bit of a louder kind of colorway. This one, though, ooh, just that classic kind of monochromatic, black dial, steel bracelet. For me, this one just all comes together and it just hits on a higher level. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, out of the gates, I have to tell you, I love the way this watch looks. I mean, it's very simple. Definitely very retro in terms of that aesthetic there with that beautiful cushion case. You can see the dome in the dial, and obviously it's playing off of the dome in this crystal. I mean, this is a good looking watch. And the cool thing is it's just from this kind of, I guess less expected brand, a brand that's really known for, of course, their branding, right? Very strong, from that perspective. And, I guess just more watches that are more for kind of the general population and not necessarily watch enthusiasts or watch collectors. I'm not to say that any of the previous models, didn't find themselves into many watch collector boxes, but I would say typically they were finding their way in towards the beginning or maybe, towards the very end, where you're just, okay, well, let me support an American brand type of thing. Or in the beginning, hey, I just like the way this is designed. I like the way that it looks. I'm not necessarily too into, the movements or anything like that, or any high specs. And then, you, as an enthusiast, you kind of peek into this area where you're just like looking for the high spec. You're looking for the history, in the design, all these other things. And typically that's where you would move on to something from a little bit of a smaller, micro brand or to a more of a mainstream luxury brand. And the cool thing is Shinola is somewhere in the middle. And I really dig that. But before we get too deep into the branding of Shinola and where it's at in 2024, let's get into the dimensions. 39 millimeters in diameter, and with that cushion case, it wears just perfectly. I'm looking forward to getting this on the wrist. I mean, even having it in the hand here, I just want to get it on the wrist, and it's just one of those watches that you want to wear. Now, it is 12.7 millimeters thick, and that is including that beautiful sapphire there, as you guys can see, that nice box dome. And then 46.5 millimeters lug to lug. And with these lugs, they're not quite, wire lugs by any means, but they are quite thin in terms of their shape. So, I mean, it almost has a lugless type of appearance to it. So I will say 46.5 is still quite short lug to lug. But if you are worried, I would say still give it a chance just because of the shape and the contouring and proportions of the watch do help it wear, I think quite well balanced on the wrist. This is, of course, stainless steel, polished with some brushed accents. So it's not brushed with polished accents. It is polished pretty much the majority of the watch with just a little top brushing there. And I think it goes a long way. I think that looks really, really handsome. Now, getting into the crown, beautifully large, perfect for, I mean, if you have a hand wind watch, you're going to want to have a nice crown like this. I like that it doesn't stick out too much, but it is tall. So you do have a lot to grip. Great tactile engagement there in terms of the grip on here. It is very nice to wind in terms of the winding experience. And you can see it is beautifully signed, and not just super simply signed, but just very nice. Look at the multitude of different finishes that are all coming together there. Nice and sharp, but not sharp to the touch, more so sharp in terms of just the level of finishing there to a high level, right? That feels very exact and very precise, which I can definitely appreciate. Now inside, oh, also that's a push-pull crown because, yeah, it's a manually wound watch. Check out this movement. I'm going to have to give it a quick little wipe here because it's a little smudgy from this warm summer day here in Southern California. But let's see if I can get this here and in the right amount of light. Check that out. Ooh, that is handsome. Very, very nice. Maybe get it at the other angle. See how this goes. Oh, this might even be better. Check it out. That is gorgeous. So a cool thing that they did is they actually did a black coat over those plates. So the movement just has so much contrast to it. The nice thing, you're still going to get the traditional blued screws and even the striping and perlage and everything like that. It's all still there. But with that black backdrop, it just makes things pop, especially the gold tones. So very, very cool, very handsome. I mean, you know, the movement inside, it's a mechanical Sellita SW210-1 manual wound movement. So it's nothing groundbreaking, guys. 42-hour power reserve, 4 hertz or 28,800 vibration per hour beat rate. But man, it looks good, guys. It's a good, I mean, aesthetically, I love this watch. Also, I enjoy wearing it as well. I love wearing it. So I just don't want. It's just kind of crazy because it's just. I dig it. I really do. So I'll try to not gush too much because I know a lot of people probably clicked on this video to hate on Shinola, which is unfortunate. I just think that this is just an amazing model, and the brand itself has really built itself up over the years, and I think that they've really matured. And you know, if this is any indicator of where the brand is headed, I mean, yeah, I'm excited. So getting into the dial, which is really gorgeous. I mean, you might even call it the star of the show. I think that movement is pretty gorgeous. Also, one thing to note is you saw that display case back. There's actually an individual serial number that is going to be etched in as well, which I think is another great thing. Also, you're getting a no ghost position on the crown, even though this is a no date variation. So good on them for having Sellita spec that out. I've seen Sellita start doing this more and more, and I'm happy to see brands really take advantage of that in terms of just, you know, making it feel purposeful and making it feel like it was the right movement for the watch and doesn't feel like a shortcut or an oversight, which, you know, a ghost position on a crown isn't the end of the world. But hey, when they go that extra mile, it makes you wonder, or actually it makes you not have to wonder about what else they missed, right? It just lets you know that they were being very thorough. So you do have this really cool, you know, curved dial there. And again, it's just very, very clean, very balanced, outer railroad track, inner Arabic numerals. It just looks good. And then in terms of the index, it is printed and a bit of almost of a 3D kind of texture to it because the lume is applied very, very thickly. You do have painted hands with a minute and seconds hand that do have curved tips that actually do go really well with the dial. You can see it there on the minute hand, and let's see it from the seconds. Might just be at a bit of a harsher angle to try to catch on camera, but you can see very nice in terms of that curvature and that kind of jumping off of your wrist dynamic nature. And the nice thing is this particular model is quite monochromatic, so it lets the design jump off your wrist and it doesn't use too many of the louder colors, which Not that I have a problem with the louder colors, but then for me, again, I just think that this feels way more balanced and way more versatile than previous iterations. Now, the water resistance, unfortunately, is only 5 atmospheres or 50 meters, which isn't bad at all. I mean, it could easily have been 30, right, instead of 50. So I appreciate it being 50. I would have preferred it to be 100 meters, just because then it just makes you feel that much more confident when it comes to not swimming with a watch, but just, getting water on it. You get a little grime, a little grit on it. You want to just be able to rinse it off underneath the sink real quick and then dry it off. So at 50 meters, you still should be good to go. But yeah, it would have probably been nicer and more confidence inspiring to be at 100 meters. So props for it not being 30, which I definitely have had watches that have had 30, or even some of them just say splash resistant. So, props again. I guess 50 meters is definitely good. And especially when you think about this is an American brand, they're probably taking that 50 meters a lot more literally than some other brands, which can kind of get by on just saying that, yeah, there's a whole way of the water rating, which isn't exactly what you think, and it's not literal. A nice thing is you do have 20 millimeter lugs here, and this beautiful bar link bracelet, as they call it, is fantastic. It does have a pin and collar construction, but with the thinness of this and just the beautiful articulation on it, I'm fine with the pin and collars. And it's actually like the heftier pin and collar, where it's a large, thick center sleeve, which actually does make it even harder in terms of doing it on your own. But the nice thing is, I have plenty of experience, so yeah, I didn't have to go take it anywhere to get done and sized. But if you're somebody who does get it sized, you're probably going to want to do that. And this won't be the type of system that you're going to want to try on your own. The nice thing is you do have those quick release spring bars, and with that 20 millimeter lug width, you can absolutely easily swap this out onto a nice, 2-piece leather or even a nylon pass-through, especially with this colorway here. And then the beautiful profile on this manually wound movement. Again, most of the heft is coming from this stepped bezel that kind of just flows right into the beautiful box dome sapphire. So don't let the camera fool you. The proportions might feel quite bubbly, but the actual size here, the ultimate thickness at 12.7 millimeters, and look at how much of that is actually just crystal. I mean, this is still quite a thin watch. Now, it's not some ultra thin wear or anything like that. It's not meant to be, but its footprint is actually quite small. Speaking of footprint, let's actually get this on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, guys, as you can see on my 7.5 inch wrist, this wears beautifully. That cushion case definitely giving you those old school kind of retro Panerai vibes. This bracelet, even I'd say modern kind of Nomos. And then in terms of just the individuality of something that's just crafting together so many different and quite versatile retro aesthetics. I mean, I think something with a cushion case, let's say from Fears, with their Brunswick 40. I mean, this just is in very good company in terms of this aesthetic. And again, this is a model that I've been wanting to see people do reviews of, and I haven't seen anybody do it. So I don't know, maybe I'm just weird and I'm the one that this really resonates with. But yeah, I just really, really dig this. And I love the fact that it's not just looks with no substance. I mean, it has a fantastic movement. It has these little ornate details that really draw you in and show you kind of that higher level of watchmaking in terms of that curved dial, the curved hands, the sculpted bezel there that just beautifully steps and just, sings along with that sapphire crystal, that fantastic to use and operate crown. So, of course, if I get my wrist a bit too close to the lens, it's going to cause a bit of perspective distortion. It's going to make the watch seem a little bit larger than it actually is. So all I do is keep my wrist nice and low and then just tighten up the frame ever so slightly so that you guys can get still a detailed look, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your own wrist. And you can see now, you can see how easily centered that is. You can see that the visual weight of the watch is pulled more to the center with those Arabic numerals, with that out outer railroad track, kind of pushing everything towards the center. And then you do have, of course, even the shape and the texture on this dial. Actually, although it's a nice black, a matte black at that, it does have a very ever so slight sunray pattern to it, which just adds. And then the last time I saw something like this, it was like I would say the Pelagos 39 that has just like a sneaky sunray pattern that you don't really notice, that you don't really see, but then it just comes into play when it comes to light play, and it really helps accentuate the bubbly nature of this dial. So yeah, this one is a looker. And one thing I did want to mention about this beautiful bracelet is it actually tapers. Check that out, guys. It tapers from 20 millimeters down to about 17.8 millimeters at that push button butterfly style deployment buckle, which actually is signed. You can see it has the Shinola little electric there mark, which is really, really cool. So again, it has a taper to it, right? Like you never see these types of bracelets taper. And again, it's just those little tiny details that they've applied that, you know, typically you kind of ask for after the fact. I love that they just kind of led with all the goodies here. And this one, again, the monochromatic nature paired to such a classic look. Of course, I think they could get a little louder and they could do some, you know, wilder things, especially within that theme of those old vintage signs, you know, from those old Detroit mechanics and everything like that. But this right here, I mean, it just hits a sweet spot for me, guys. I'm really digging it. But with that said, let's actually get it off the wrist, set up for some Lume shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Oh, yes. Wow. Look at that Lume. So, you know, although it does have a bit of a day glow to it with almost a hint of green, I think it works out. I mean, I think, of course, everybody loves a nice crisp white day font, but here I like that it kind of gives you a little sneak preview when you are seeing it lit that, oh, there's a little bit of a tonality to it. It has almost like a little bit of a vintage vibe by having a little bit of that Lume tone. And I like that they didn't go, you know, full on patina tone. So yeah, this is like kind of an in-between type of aging to it to where, yeah, you can see because the Lume is still pretty bright and green during the daylight. But one thing I always like to work in is going to be a bit of a low light transition because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it's nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. And my goodness, guys, you can see now where that sunray effect is really coming into play on that dial, really showing the contouring there. And then, of course, if you do drop an angle, the beautiful thing is you're still getting great legibility thanks to the high contrast nature of this dial. And man, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure some people are watching this wondering, like, why does he like this very plain looking watch so much? And some of you are just like feeling it. Some of you guys are like me right now, or just like, ooh, this just, it comes together. There's so many elements, things that I like, things where I would tweak and turn that I've seen over time, over years in various other designs. But then to see it all kind of come together here in a way where I'm not like thinking, oh, I would like this to change or that to change, you know, whatever aspect it is, the fact that it just is already like that. I mean, they even have it on a bracelet, and a retro bracelet that really suits the aesthetic of the watch. I mean, that's cool. I dig that. And I can tell the level of passion that went into this design. And I mean, you know, Shinola's never been known for bad designs. I mean, if anything, their designs have always been great. It's really just been their market demographic. They weren't really targeting hardcore enthusiasts. They were targeting people that maybe weren't really into watches, that were into more lifestyle, the clothing, just something that looks good. So they've already always had pretty handsome looks, but now they're scaling things the right way in terms of the size, in terms of the movement choice. I just like that they're really, you know, now that they've built this huge platform, this big brand, that they're able to really get into the nitty gritty when it comes to a timepiece like this. So let's go ahead and get everything back on here. All right. Ooh, that is a looker of a wristwatch, guys. So closing thoughts, the retro cushion case has a lovely profile that just pops without feeling too tall or oversized. It's a really well-balanced wearing watch overall. In terms of model variants, definitely check the site links in the description for options and availability, as yeah, this isn't the first iteration they came out with. This is the first one, at least on the bracelet, but they do have other ones that do look very, very cool. And, you know, some of the previous models, even from the initial run, I think may still be available as well. So if you're looking for discounts and stuff like that, you know, of course, the one on bracelet won't be the cheapest. So that's the nice thing, is if you do want to get one on strap, or you're just not a big bracelet person, hey, perfect outcome for you. Now, in terms of comparable models, I think this compares really well against something like, again, a Fears Brunswick or a Nomos Club, in terms of providing a very similar kind of dressy yet informal everyday appeal to it. I like that. Like, it's clean, it's classic, not necessarily like black tie dressy, but it definitely has a more of a put together upscale aesthetic. Like this wasn't a casual thing that just came together. And, you know, some of their other designs are, and some people want that type of thing, but this just feels very deliberate. It feels very, very refined. And I like that. The juxtaposition of that coming from Shinola, Detroit, right? I don't know. There's something about that I just find very, very cool. So for me, guys, bottom line, Shinola were clearly targeting the enthusiast market when they created the mechanic line, and I think they really nailed it. And, you know, as curious as I've been about their automatic divers, which do also look very cool, and Shinola, if you're listening, I'd love to check one of those out eventually as well. It's this mechanic line that really pulled me in. I mean, you don't know how many times I had added this thing to carts, but I have so many watches, it's tough to just buy something for my own personal enjoyment. So I'm really glad and fortunate that the team at Shinola were kind enough to oblige my request here. So the mechanic has to be my favorite Shinola release to date. And if this is any indicator, again, of where the brand is headed, then I could easily see more enthusiast-focused models coming in the future. Stuff just as cool, but also really as unexpected and diverse as this. Like, if you would have told me that, you know, this type of watch that I've been searching for when I look for a Nomos Club, and I'm looking at a Fears Brunswick, or I'm looking at a Panerai, if you told me that I was going to be able to kind of find my perfect blend of all of that in a Shinola watch, I would have been very skeptical. But after spending time with this piece, I have to say, as a very strict collector, and in terms of, you know, kind of finding reasons not to get new watches because I have too many, this one really just broke my walls down. So let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you're already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.